One of the most important things that we talk about with our clients and prospects is the emphasis that HSS puts on safety and safety compliance. So what I wanted to do was just cover that here. We published an ebook on safety, and two of the contributors to that are joining us here today, Jay Segovia and Pablo Landaverde, who are both regional safety managers at HSS. Jay, Pablo, thanks so much for joining us. Let's just dive right in and talk about why safety is so important in hospitality.
Thank you for having us. Really appreciate the invite and the opportunity to share this information with everyone. To answer your question, one of the things that, we see with hospitality, it's a lot of repetitive motion injuries. And so maybe the jobs that the housekeepers are doing may not be seen as very physical and affecting the body as much, but when you think about it and you see employees doing it day by day, every single day, multiple times a day, little by little, that continues to affect the body. And so the emphasis that we see in some of the injuries or the focus is not always there, and so maybe the housekeepers are not looked at or there's not enough focus put into the positions or the tasks that they're completing. And that's when we see some of the injuries occurring because they happen over time.
Yeah, no, it's thank you for having us, James. And as Pablo stated, I think our industry is looked at as not being high risk because the type of work we do, we don't have or operate heavy machinery or deal with highly hazardous chemicals. But if you look at the industry overall, we do touch a lot of chemicals that could affect our employees and our guests and our coworkers. So therefore, the aspect of emphasizing on safety is very important and reminding everybody that even though we perceive the job to be routine and not serious, there's a lot of risk involved in the daily aspects. Like Pablo said, ergonomics and repetitive motions are one of the biggest contributors to our risk factors at work.
And, I think that one of the things that you just touched on is really important when it comes to guest safety. Obviously that is something that's highly important to the industry. I think that one of the things that were cited in putting together the book was just the very simple, the power cord on a vacuum cleaner and properly handling that and how that can affect not just the safety of the workers themselves, the housekeepers, but also the guests. It's little things like that, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. Very routine tasks, just as simple as, using a vacuum cleaner. We find that the housekeepers are the primary users of those machines, but as they're using those machines, they can also identify issues that could affect the guests as well. The guests are using the same outlets that the housekeepers are using. And so having the housekeepers properly trained on how to identify those hazards and how to address the hazards can definitely benefit both the employee and the guests at the hotels, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Pablo said, hazards that you might not even think of, electrical hazards. The vacuum cleaner, it's plugged in. So if the wire is exposed or not properly maintained, it could, have a electrocution factor to it, as well as a trip and slip component to it.
What do you guys see as some of the biggest myths that are out there when it comes to safety and hospitality when you're working with clients?
I personally think the biggest one that we see is that, especially with staffing, the clients tend to think that, because we have a staffing agency, then we don't have to worry about anything that they do. We don't have to worry about everything that they, or the training that they have to perform. And that's, not the case. We want the housekeepers to get the same level of training and attention that anybody else will get. And it's basically a partnership. We want to partner with the clients to make sure that the housekeepers, employees in general, are being safe, even when they're at different locations. So I think the biggest misconception or myth that we see is that because we have someone working for a staffing company, then we don't have to worry about them. And is definitely not the case.
Yeah, I reemphasize what Pablo said. Uh, One of the biggest myths in our industry is that there is no risk at all, right? Just because we don't operate heavy machinery or we're not over here dealing with chlorine or sulfuric acids, that we just don't have any risk. But if you look at most of our hospitality industry, they have every hotel out there has a pool. So therefore, there are some serious chemicals being pumped into these swimming pools that could affect not only our guests, but our coworkers as well.
In terms of just some of the pitfalls that you see out there, what are some of the most common pitfalls that are out there, and also maybe some ways that can easily prevent them?
It's very minor things, that we see. Maybe housekeepers not following proper procedures. Housekeepers, employees not using the proper tools or equipment, not wearing the proper PPE. So very things that we could think that everyone should be doing, and we train the housekeepers and we assume that they're doing. Those are the things that are actually causing a lot of the injuries that we see. So paying attention, doing a lot of observations, utilizing the housekeeper supervisors, the leads, the managers, and everyone in general, observing what the employees are doing and how they're doing it is what's going to help us prevent a lot of those little things that we see that are happening and that maybe we don't pay a lot of attention to. But once we start looking into it, we see that those are one of the number one contributors into the injuries that we're having.
Absolutely. I think going into our daily routines, thinking that the tasks that our coworkers are doing are routine, right? That there's no injuries or special factors that contribute to the injuries, and just taking them as a routine task. Well, most of the injuries come from routine tasks. Making the beds, vacuuming, walking down the stairs, mopping, sweeping. Those are all injuries that we see on our daily basis. So, routine tasks are the biggest contributing factors for our injuries. The lack of knowledge. Sometimes we have high turnovers on some facilities. So therefore, some folks have never seen or they have a lack of understanding what a potential hazard might be. So us training them and illustrating and highlighting that these tasks could pose risks is a component of that as well.
When it comes to safety, one of the things when we were putting together this ebook and working with you guys to do that, it came up was just how expansive safety has become. It really started as kind of a way of protecting the workers, but now it's expanded out into obviously the coronavirus contributed to it, but then there's also just some current events when it comes to human trafficking and active shooters, things like that. You guys cover all of that, don't you?
Yes, we try to cover every single scenario that we may encounter, including some of the stuff that you mentioned, but also like tornadoes, hurricanes, what to do in the event of those type of situations. We want the housekeepers to have all that information, or the employees to have that information, because they're going to be able to help everyone else at the hotel, including the guests, if any of those situations happen. So we include all of that, sexual harassment, human trafficking, emergency evacuations, active shooter situations. That's one of the things that has been happening in the world as well. So we want the employees to be prepared for anything and everything that comes. And again, it's a partnership. Every client is different. Every layout of the properties are different. The areas that the employees have to be responsible for are different in every single location. And so partnering with the clients and being able to understand their program is really what's going to be the best way to communicate that with everyone.
Absolutely. Like Pablo mentioned, emergency action plans, being aware of them, how to read the emergency action plans, having our staff knowledgeable enough to understand the information and what to do in a case of emergency. Unfortunately, in the past couple of weeks, we've even seen tornadoes sweep through the southwest region. knowing what to do in emergencies like that comes from training, and it comes from an understanding the materials that each site has and what to do. Not only does that help our work staff, but it also helps our guests in the hotels.
Definitely. And I think that coronavirus was a big one, that I don't think that anybody was prepared for something like that. We as a company were able to get together, develop our program, develop our training to make sure that we assist our clients, and we're able to share all that information, everything that we have learned, everything that we do, it's available for our clients as well, because it's a very important part of the business as well.
Mm-hmm. Jay, Pablo, thanks so much for joining us. We do have that ebook, Safety Matters. You're out there watching, listening. Take some time to download that. It really is a terrific resource. It's full of a lot of checklists, a lot of links to resources from OSHA. So definitely take the time to download that. Guys, thanks so much for joining us, and thank you for what you do. I am James Krause, and for Hospitality Staffing Solutions. Thanks for watching.